% overall from the field, but he was also 50% from threes. He's 5 of 10.
I know you're out there. It's okay. Stand back there.
No, more than likely, you're going to get that number 1 seed. And so I want Houston to be ranked at number 1 and 8.
Let's hear from inside East Carolina, on the campus of East Carolina here in Greenville, North Carolina. Joining me as always, Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Dayon Dunlap off the heels of yet another Houston Cougars victory, this time improving them to 27-2 overall, 15-1 in the American Athletic Conference. And there's no share and none of that, officially clinching the outright championship for the American Athletic Conference Championship. The 2022-23 regular season American Athletic Conference champions are the Houston Cougars. And we have a lot to get into that honestly does not even involve this East Carolina game. It involves the big picture, looking ahead. But, of course, Kris, Dayon, how are you two doing here on this episode of Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian Family?
Doing great, man. Cougs won. Cougs are conference champions. Purdue lost. We know the Cougs are going to play Friday at noon on March 10th for the first game, that Friday of the tournament. It's a good day to be a Coug, man. Well, it's always a good day to be a Coug.
Especially today.
Yeah, I'm good as well, man. Cougs look good. All right, champs.
Andy, I got to ask you real quick, man. Is that the hoodie you're wearing right there?
No, it's not. I had to switch it up. It's not the hoodie. I have it in the hotel. But I will be creating commercials soon, shooting with the official Let's Rage Cougs hoodie, Let's Rage Cougs merch, which, of course, Kris, you know that we need to plug in our line, but we'll do so a little bit later because obviously we need to get into it.
I'm ready. Just let me know.
But real quick, let's talk about this game. Let's talk about Houston, East Carolina. We'll plug later. Sorry, Kris. But when it comes to the Cougars, 76-57 victory over East Carolina. Of course, that's the stats, that's the details, but that's not what we really want to get into because there's a lot of stuff that's said post game, in particular in regards to Kelvin Sampson and what he had to say about potentially, there's been speculation, and it's not even speculating. There's always speculation, outside noise that honestly we don't know where it comes from. It just always creeps up, especially when a prominent head coaching position is open. I think Kelvin Sampson put the final nail in any of that talk today, and we'll get into that clip, but I'm going to toss it over to you guys. What do you guys want to talk about first in regards to Houston clinching the regular season title, or just jump straight into the clip?
Jump straight into the clip.
Let's do it.
No shade to EC.
Dylan, I know you want your guys to feel rewarded when they accomplish something. You win an outright conference title. I know there are huge goals for this program. How do you want your players to feel about what they accomplished?
Awesome. They should feel it. I mean, it's we just played our 4th game in 10 days. It's been a long season. I mean, it really is. We've been going through this league for 9 years, and everywhere we go, it's a packed house. I was really, really proud of Coach Schwartz and East Carolina tonight. They came out, and that's obviously the best crowd we've ever seen here. But they were good. I mean, they were into it. They wouldn't let their kids die. Michael's going to coach them up. He's going to do a great job here. When I saw that they had hired him, of course, I was a Joe Dooley fan too. But when I saw that they hired Michael, I said, good for them. It's a great hire. He's a good coach, good man. His kids are going to play hard. He'll do well. But proud of my guys. I mean, we played 10 road games this year at Oregon, at Virginia, all over this league. We're 10-0. It's hard to be undefeated on the road. It's hard to win on the road. And for us to be 10-0 with this bunch, especially when you consider we lost 4 starters from last year's team. Bunch of freshmen, but our kids think this is our 4th championship in 5 years or something like that. So we've been at this a long time. our kids know how to win. I say that a lot, but we've figured out how to play our system, be unselfish. So happy for our kids to be rewarded with winning a conference championship. That's not easy to do.
Coach, on the topic of kind of being able to establish, like your kids know how to win. It's a part of the identity. One of the other things that goes with the culture is the defense. What did you personally think about the team's defense, especially in the first half, where I know you guys got into the foul trouble, but East Carolina was really struggling to score for them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not into breaking that down. I mean, win the conference championship, man. Our defense was good at times, and at times East Carolina's offense was good. They did a good job offensively in the second half. We couldn't keep them off the free throw line. Obviously, we don't know whether we're on foot or horseback playing a zone. We don't even know how to play a zone. I put them in zone, and I said, well, God, you guys, all you can do is foul them. I said, well, shit, we can foul them in the zone. So just go zone. At least they'll pass it 3 times before we foul them. So, but, I'm not going to over-evaluate that. We played 29 games. We're 27-2. We need some rest. This has been a tough stretch for us. We played at SMU, came home, played Memphis, Tulane, at East Carolina, all in 10 days. So, a lot of things tonight we didn't do very good. A lot of things we did good, but I'm not going to sit here and analyze it. Yeah, I don't get to go back to Pembroke very often. My wife and I both graduated from Pembroke Senior High School. She's on the board of trustees at UNC Pembroke. And yes, I married someone way smarter than me. But, we left there, and I graduated from, when I graduated, it was Pembroke State. And then I went and finished my master's degree and worked on my PhD at Michigan State University. And then from there, we just kind of found our way around the country and the world. Pembroke, East Lansing, Michigan, Butte, Montana, Pullman, Washington, Norman, Oklahoma, Bloomington, Indiana. We're at next, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Houston, Texas. And this will be my last stop. I don't know how much longer I have left, but it's been a blessing. And my heroes have always been my mom and dad. My dad was inducted to the North Carolina High School Coaches Hall of Fame in Chapel Hill in early 2000s. My mom was an RN. She's the director of health services at the university. So having great parents for all of us, and I know you guys that have great parents know what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not special or unique in this way, but growing up in a community like Pembroke, you're kind of raised by everybody. I don't know everybody like I used to. Of course, I haven't lived there since 1978, but I've always taken pride in being from there. I've always taken pride in graduating from UNC Pembroke. I mean, it's a great school, but it's also a testament that it doesn't matter where you go to school. You can be whatever you want to be. It's up to you. You choose that. Schools don't graduate. You graduate. It's like our kids that come to University of Houston. We have a great school, but I tell kids in recruiting, choose a coaching staff. Don't choose a school.
So there you had it. Head coach Kelvin Sampson got into a lot of things, but the biggest thing there towards the latter middle portion of the clip that U of H will be his last stop. Deon, Kris, your initial reactions to hear that and just overall comments that he had to say about, once again, his kids know how to win is something that he said after Houston clinched at share of the regular season championship on Wednesday after they beat Tulane. Now that they're outright champions, he once again said it.
Technically, correct me if I'm wrong, he said Houston would be his last stop, right?
Yeah, he did say Houston.
He didn't say University of Houston. He said Houston. So Rocket fans, you still have hope, but I'm going to pour cold water on that hope. Coach Sampson's not going back to the pros. he'll be at the Houston Cougars until he decides to retire.
It's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think his contract, what it says, is set up for him to retire at Houston and his son to be the coach in waiting. So that's kind of submitting, where your home is going to be. Like eventually, he wants to see his son follow in his footsteps, be the head coach of Houston, and I'm sure after he win the championship, get a statue outside of Houston. And so, I'm not surprised with that at all.
Yeah, I do wonder if we can knock on wood, if you got wood at the house, if the Cougs win the championship this year, would he decide to retire after this season because he'd have the championship? Just something to put out there. I don't believe so.
I don't know. I don't think so. And you want to know why? Because I think there'd be a competitive. Yeah, there'd be that competitive aspect where, again, going back to what we said after Wednesday's game against Tulane, where we kind of got to see, really, if you look at it from a car analogy, if you pop the hood, you kind of got to see the wiring in Kelvin Sampson's brain when it comes to how competitive he is. There's a part of it that, the Big 12 challenge, I think there should just be a part of it where he would want to defend his national championship. If it were to, obviously, we're getting too far ahead, but if that were to happen.
And I think he also, the competitor he is, he'd like to win in the Big 12 too. Coach, he says it sometimes, but off the record, Coach gets a kick out of shutting haters up. Okay? So if he won in the Big 12, he could really say to all the, now what you got to say? You said we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. Well, we just won the Big 12. Case closed.
And not only that, you take into the aspect of his son, who's going to be the head coach in waiting, just leaving him his first year in the Big 12. I think it would be a smoother transition for Coach Sampson to lead the program in a conference he's used to. And like Kris said, and you guys said, prove that he can win and do all the things that we expect for him to do this year. And have that transition a little more easier versus winning like we're talking about this year and then retiring. So I don't think so. I think he has more time to go. And I think he's focused on this year. I got high hopes.
I think we do have high hopes. Excuse me, Andy, go ahead.
Go ahead. What I was going to say, at the end of the day, it puts an end to, and again, you can't really put much stock in it, but every time there's a coaching opening, in particular, I'm referencing that school in Orange, burnt orange at that, by the way, October 21, that Let's Rage Coogs will still be there when it comes to Red Bull. When the football team goes up there, or not even goes up there, goes to TDECU Stadium and beats Texas. But I digress from that point. But it kind of puts an end to it. I think for the longest, and Kris, Dayon, we always we ever thought hard for Kelvin to leave the Cougars for another college program. It didn't really make sense, especially just hearing him talk every time he mentions how whenever he first took over Houston, obviously where the status of the program was, and then when he spoke about it most recently in a Zoom last week where he said it took him a while. It took him a while to kind of jump 2 feet into being the head coach at the Houston Cougars and taking over the program. And, he said once he put 2 feet in, he was bought in, he was all in. And again, the resurgence, and it kind of connects it. And out of all the places where Houston could have clinched the regular season championship, what a coincidence that it was in North Carolina of all states. And you're kind of to have a behind the scenes peek behind the curtain here. Kris, Dayon, you guys know, usually when the Cougars are on the road and they finish a game, they are fast. Like they are trying to get out as soon as possible to get back into Houston. But today it was different. Kelvin, I don't know how many different people there were here that came to support Kelvin Sampson, the Houston Cougars, and there was a swarm of people that were just waiting. As soon as Kelvin finished his post-game news conference in the East Carolina room, he was out here, but he came back out in the court, and there was a lot of people, and he waited to meet every single one of those people. And it wasn't just, take a photo opportunity or something. He was having conversations with them. He was speaking with them. He was taking the time to just, again, being able to take time out of their day. They came out here in support and kind of connecting with them and giving it back. He left literally 5 minutes before we went on air, which over an hour after the game had ended, that's not how things usually go. And again, it kind of brings it full circle with the importance that just North Carolina has. But again, to go back to those comments, just kind of full circle of where his career is.
He's home in front of friends and family. So I think clinching the title, the conference championship at home, is extra special for him. Coach Sampson is a huge family person. He loves his family. We can look at the program and see how important the family is to him. So I'm not surprised at all. I know you're not surprised, but to have so many people that he knows and family come see him and support him and remembers him through tough times and stuck with him. So him taking time after the game to speak with them and touch base with them and reconnect with some of them is a testament to who he is as a person. So we're doing a great job of talking about the program of Coach Sampson. At some point, we're going to talk about the win, but the game was never in doubt. I mean, the biggest doubt down Andy fans was when Marcus Sasser rolled his ankle. What people thought about that, but when I rewound it and saw it, I said, "Oh, he just rolled his ankle." I wasn't too concerned, even when he was helped out the floor, because he was putting weight on his ankle as he walked to the locker room. So,
Yeah,
muted, Andy.
That's what I was going to say real quickly before we kind of segue and talk a little bit more about specifics of that East Carolina game. You're right, Chris. That's really kind of the big event that happened in the game was Marcus Sasser turning his ankle. But, of course, we'd like to thank everybody that's watching us live on the Houston Round Ball Review YouTube channel. This is Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian Family, with all three of us at different locations, I might add. This is Let's Rage Coogs, the unofficial Houston postgame show of men's basketball and football, as we only have 2 regular seasons left. Regular season games left, and going into the conference tournament, into the NCAA tournament. We can't say thank you enough for all of you guys that have supported us throughout the entire season, even going back to the football season. September 3rd, I believe, was the first ever Let's Rage Coogs we did this season in the calendar 2022-23 year for Houston. So obviously special thanks to all of you guys, and of course we couldn't do it without our partners, beginning with the Saxenian Family, which is the primary sponsor of Let's Rage Coogs, that will be the primary sponsor for the remainder of the season, going into the conference tournament and into the NCAA tournament as well. And of course, our other partner for today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs, Star Pizza. They are Houston's best pizza since 1976, with multiple locations across the Houston area. Be sure to visit them at starpizza.net, where not only you can check out their menu online, but you can also order, so you can just stop and go if you're on the way home. And of course, we also like to say thank you to HOUNIL, and we're going to toss it over to Javier Francis and his message on HOUNIL.
Hi, my name is Javier Francis, and I'm partnering with HOUNIL. Hey, we need the fans to go to HOUNIL.com to subscribe to our player credit content. Supporting Cougar basketball helps us players stay among the top teams in the country. Once again, that's HOUNIL.com to subscribe. Thank you, and go Cougs.
HOUNIL.com. If you're interested in subscribing to player created content, be sure to visit them at HOUNIL.com, with subscription starting at just $20 a month. On that note, of course, there was a basketball game played here in Greenville, North Carolina, and Chris, like you said, there wasn't really much doubt from the beginning. If you look at it from start to finish, you could tell Houston was just the superior team in any way, shape, or form that you would look at it. And in particular, it was just too much talent on the floor. And in Kelvin's club, you couldn't hear it. I can't remember if you heard, but he said in his news conference where Tramon Mark was the best player in today's game against East Carolina. But real quick, before we focus on Mark, I do want to focus on Marcus. And like you said, that turned ankle that he suffered towards the 13-minute mark in the first half, where for those 2 minutes, I know, Chris, you said you went back and you saw that it was just a rolled ankle. It kind of, when it came to where you weren't so much worried about it. But initially, when it happened here on the court, you could see the pain in Marcus Sasser's face. Calvin Sampson went up to check on Sasser, John Houston, and Alan Bishop both of whom are on the staff on Houston Cougars, they had to help him into the locker room. Now, it turned out that he just went toward the back to be able to get retaped with John Houston. He was back 2 minutes later, but yeah, that was the biggest area for concern for those 2 minutes. Houston Cougar fans were kind of maybe not having flashbacks, but they were certainly worrying about Marcus Sasser. Obviously, of course, what happened last season with the senior guard.
Yeah, I wasn't worried that he injured his foot again. I was concerned that he hurt his knee. That was my concern. But when I rewound it and realized he just really turned the ankle, I was like, okay, if it's a week or so, so be it. But then John Houston is just a medicine man, so he does what he does, retape the ankle and sprinkle some John Houston dust on it, and Marcus came back in the game. So there we go.
Yeah, and he played well tonight. I think he looked really good. I think when I was watching the game, it stood out to me, of course, is the level of intensity they play with on the defensive end. And one thing I was watching and thinking about it, when I watch other teams, you often see times where someone has a defensive lapse and they be like, my bad, my bad. You rarely see Houston do that, especially on defense. If it happens, it'll happen on offense. But on defense, they're locked in and they're in sync, in unison. And that's one thing that really stood out to me. Every play, that every pass that they had, everything Houston was there just on defense, making it tough for them. And that's kind of been consistent throughout the whole year. And like no matter who's having a really good offensive game, the defense is why Houston has the record that they have. It's because of the defense. And tonight it came out and they were just on lockdown, just locking everything. They were just on everything. Nothing worked for East Carolina to start the game.
No, and that defense, it was suffocating. And I think I tweeted this out kind of verbatim. I said the stat of the night at halftime, East Carolina had 3 made field goals. They went over 10 minutes and 56 seconds of game action where they did not score a single field goal to end the first half going into halftime. And only 3 made field goals going into halftime. Houston had 5 blocks. They had more blocks than ECU had field goals. And really what kept the Pirates within not striking distance, within a respectable range from score standpoint was the foul trouble that the Houston Cougars were in, and really the tight whistle that the officials were calling, which even in the second half when East Carolina finally broke the drought, I think Houston opened the second half on a 12-3 run that built a 23-point lead, and then after that it kind of maybe not got away, but the defense kind of started to see more slip-ups. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Dayon, it seemed like there was just a different speed, and it didn't matter top to bottom. It was Emmanuel Sharp had a great block on a fast break where it seemed like East Carolina was going to have a layup opportunity. Jamal Shedd was active in the passing lanes. Marcus Sasser transition, like you said, you rolled his ankle. You couldn't tell by whenever you start seeing him run in transition. After that, he was just flying all over the place, and he had once again he does it at least once a game now when it comes to the signature Euro step, but. Jarris Walker was active in the passing lanes and being able to contest shots. Jawan Roberts got it going, especially in the second half when he started tracking down rebounds. Offensive rebounds were kind of, I don't think you can see it from Houston maybe not missing as much, but it kind of flipped the switch in the second half when it came to Houston being able to offensive rebound the ball, and particularly Jawan Roberts, who had 7, I believe, at the end of the game.
I mean, ECU shot 50%, 52% in the second half, and still lost the second half. I mean, the Coogs outscored them 40-38 in the second half. So
yeah,
kind of followed up a dismal 3 for 25 first half, shot better in the second half, and still lost the second half. So I mean, the Coogs are just a better team, more talented. Salute to ECU for not giving up, not rolling over and quitting.
And salute to the crowd. The crowd was spectacular for the first 5 minutes or so when it was a close game. They were loud, and even when Houston built up the lead, there was still energy. When East Carolina went on a run and cut it to 16, it was loud. Like, this is probably one of the best atmospheres across for road games this season that Houston has had to play in. Like, honestly.
Another thing I was thinking about in regards to how the referees are calling it tight, Houston has been in foul trouble, like J1 recently, who we think about a lot. They got to watch that, because I was thinking about against Villanova. Me and Andy was sitting right there and how tight they were calling it. And so Houston, that's something that can plague Houston going forward. But they do have the depth, although it's young depth who players can. But I think in any given game, Houston has to be mindful of the referees and how they're calling the game and adjust it, because it can affect Houston with how hard they play on defense, because oftentimes they make contact. Not all contact in basketball is a foul, but it's up to discretion of the ref. But man, Houston looked good. Tramon, he was the best player out there for Houston tonight. I agree with Coach Sampson when he said that, because he just put on full display his offensive arsenal. I think early he knocked down a couple threes, and then he started showing his playmaking ability, in which just adds to his offensive arsenal, because he can score on all three levels with the three, the mid-range, and he can get inside and get into his floater game. And so, and then once he got into his bag, he just started making more plays, and he was really comfortable. The Coach Sampson started running offense through him. He started handling the ball and bringing the ball up and playing him a lot in pick and roll. And so I think if he can continue being efficient like he's been of recent, along with what Jamal and Marcus and everyone's going to bring you consistent on any given night, I mean, Houston is peaking for sure.
I think one thing defensively, since January, the team is going for more pump fakes than they did in non-conference.
Especially when it comes to closing out. Even on closing out, sometimes they'll fly by.
You know, Juan, Jarris, Terrence, Emmanuel, they gotta, cut that out, because if you are out of position, you're off balance, then you start reaching with your hands, and you make it easy for refs to call a foul there if you go for the pump fake. So that's, it's an important thing to correct. We saw the zone defense was not good. The lack of communication down the stretch in the zone. They don't do it. They don't play zone a lot. So,
which is something that Apollo kind of points out.
Yeah, that was an issue, not a concern, is an issue. And also, I think the guys are tired. This is the third game this week for the team this week. And defense, down the stretch, the game was never in doubt. In the second half, ECU was shooting the ball better, but the game wasn't in doubt. So I think they were tired and got a little bored on defense as well. So that won't be an issue. It should not be an issue come tournament and postseason play.
Jesus, got silent time. Go ahead, Dan.
Nah, I was agreeing with what Kris was saying. Only if it's a blowout. Like, it got like that towards the end because the game was out of hand. And so, I was just agreeing with what Kris was saying.
Well, to add on to your point, Dan, that you mentioned about potential foul trouble, like you said, not all contact is a foul, but it's at the discretion of the officials, and it's something that Kelvin Sampson in the past has said he prefers for his teams to be more aggressive and them having to have to dial it back, which is something that at times I think, oh, Dan, it seemed like you froze there for a second. At times, like going back to that Villanova game, in particular, and even the Memphis second half, where there's literally, it seems like there's foul stoppages at every possession, and that could be something to keep an eye on going down the stretch.
And Jamal Shead cannot get in foul trouble, early foul trouble, because it disrupts the rotation. I have no worries about Tramon running the offense, leading the offense, but Jamal, he's the floor leader. He's the head of the snake. Some of his fouls, he's aggressive, too aggressive. And, refs, depending on how they call the game, Jamal's got to adjust to that. Do a better job of adjusting to that. The 4 fouls tonight, like I said, tonight, this game was never in doubt. Andy, I don't know what the spread was in the game. Did the Coogs cover? I don't know. But it was never in doubt. But little bits and pieces here to correct and fix in the video room going forward for senior night on Thursday. No worries at all.
I did want to point out the Marik's comments. Tramon obviously been playing great defense all season long. He's also been the best rebounding guard, with Sharp being a close second. That rebounding is something that it's evident. You can tell these, again, something that we mentioned throughout previous shows. It's kind of become a night in, night out basis where you expect him to get at least 5-6 rebounds. Today he had 9. All of them were defensive rebounds, which, especially early on in the season, defensive rebounding was a bit of a struggle for Houston, and that's big, being able to finish close defensive possessions by getting those defensive boards.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the season, and Houston every year has a guard who rebounds well, and I expected it to be Tramon, and has been him. And so, to that comment, I mean, they're exactly right. He's been rebounding the ball well all year, but I mean, the only thing with Tramon all year, he hasn't really been shooting as efficient, I'm sure, as he would like. Other than that, he's been consistent with his defense and his rebounding and pretty much with everything else. But his shot is falling and just hasn't been efficient. But I think it can only go. I think he's kind of in a slump. I think, and it looks like to me, him and Marcus right now are really at their peaks and being in a really, really good rhythm. I think early on in the year, just as a team, they were still kind of gelling together and figuring everything out. But I think right now they just know where each other wants the ball. They can feel who has the rhythm for that game, who has it going. They'll get it to them. And so the team is just so unselfish. And I think Marcus is really, really, really looking like he's really the leaders on the run right now, the way he's playing.
Also, I think Tramon is healthier now. I think the thigh issue he was having earlier in the season is no longer an issue. And keep in mind, when the Cougs lost to Alabama, Tramon fouled out with 8 minutes to go. And the Cougs were doing a great job until he fouled out. And the offense kind of bogged down without him. So he's important. We all know that. He's important because he can facilitate. He takes pressure off of Jamal and Marcus sometimes to lead the offense. So he's valuable on offense and defense.
Well, talking about Tramon Mark, we'll hear from Tramon Mark on the other side of this break. But first, we'd like to remind everybody that they are watching Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian Family. The Saxenian Family is the primary sponsor of Let's Rage Coogs for the remainder of these. Well, I say remainder of the regular season. There's only 2 games left. There's only 1 week of the regular season. By this time next week, the regular season will have been over. It'll be all eyes towards the conference tournament, and then, of course, the big dance tournament, the NCAA tournament, because this upcoming week, it's March. It's March already. We're almost to March, Kris and Dayan, which is the most exciting time of the year. But of course, we couldn't say thank you enough to the Saxenian Family for being the primary sponsor and a big supporter of Let's Rage Cougs for the entire men's basketball season. Of course, we also like to say thank you to our other partners, beginning with Star Pizza. Star Pizza is Houston's best pizza since 1976, with various locations across the Houston area. Be sure to visit them online at starpizza.net, where not only you can check out their menu, but you can also order online for easier pickup. And of course, HOUNIL. HOUNIL is really Houston player-led created content, and says in the name, it's name, image, and likeness, and you can subscribe for starting at just $20 a month, and you can hear content from players, from video essays, articles that they write, and well, you don't have to hear my word about it. Check out what Javier Francis had to say about HOUNIL.
Hi, my name is Javier Francis, and I'm partnering with HOUNIL. Hey, we need the fans to go to HOUNIL.com to subscribe to our player-created content. Supporting Cougar basketball helps us players stay among the top teams in the country. Once again, that's HOUNIL.com to subscribe. Thank you, and go Coogs.
And last but not least, we also have Kris. Drum roll. We have our own merch. If you haven't heard, if you haven't watched any of our old Let's Rage Cougs episode, we have the official merch line called the Let's Rage, Let's Rage line that was requested, I guess you could kind of say, by popular demand, and that's the Let's Rage Cougs merch line. So far, to start, we have 2 different lines, beginning with the Let's Rage line, which is the one that I was wearing earlier today in the airport, really coming into Greenville. It was a busy day. I've been on a lot of flights today, going from Houston to Charlotte to Greenville. It's a very, very small airport, but I was rocking my Let's Rage Cougs merch, which comes in 3 different colors in any size that best fits you, and it's different lines as well. Like I said, that's the Let's Rage line. Of course, There Will Be Rage line as well, both featuring Cougars that, of course, support our alma mater in the Houston Cougars. Like I said, it comes in a t-shirt, it comes in a hoodie, and it comes in 3 different colors. And really, it's just to be able to show us our support for those of you that buy the shirts and really that buy the shirts. We want to see them and see what it looks on you guys, because we have a hashtag to go along with it too. Hashtag Let's Rage Merch, because we want to see you guys rocking out your gear just like I was earlier today. If I can figure out how to work StreamYard, sometimes it'll be complicated a little bit, but if you guys can see, I was rocking my Let's Rage merch at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, which I did not know until today. The NASCAR Hall of Fame was in Charlotte. I was rocking the Let's Rage merch all the way from Houston into North Carolina. I'll be rocking it back on the way back to Houston. So if you want to be like me and show off your Let's Rage merch, be sure to do so by going to www.bonfire.com/store/Let's Rage Coogs shop. Kris, I know you have your hoodie as well, so I'm gonna toss it over to you.
No, I don't have a hoodie yet. I got the one of the
t-shirt.
t-shirt.
The t-shirt.
Yeah, one of my classmates has the hoodie, so she's supporting us and the show all the way from the state of Washington. So we're national, man. It's great for us. Let's Rage Cougs. We've had a lot of success this season, and I think better things are still in the future for us.
And especially if you guys are out at the Fertitta Center, or heck, even if you guys are in a conference tournament come the NCAA tournament time and you're rocking your Let's Rage merch, be sure to tag us. We want to see it. It's awesome to be able to see just really how this has grown and the support that you guys have shown. We want to be able to show you guys off as well. So be sure to tag us in all your social posts. And if you haven't got Let's Rage merch yet, be sure to do so, because it really helps us out. And it's some pretty cool merch. But enough of our self-plugs. We'll toss it over to Tramon Mark and what he had to say following Houston's victory over East Carolina and really on clinching the American Athletic Conference regular season title.
He wants you guys to feel rewarded about winning another conference title, making it outright. I know you have bigger goals. How proud are you to get that done tonight?
I'm proud for myself and the team. All the hard work we put in leading to this point. It's a great feeling to have, great step going into the next stretch of our season. So it's just a good feeling to have. We clinched the conference championship.
It's not just your production tonight. You look to be particularly aggressive, assertive, very confident. What kind of led to that, and what do you think about your production tonight?
I just think, how I prepared coming into the game, just previous practices and leading up to this game, it was bound to come from me. Just being aggressive, like you said, assertive. I think did a good job of that tonight.
What does it take for you guys to be as good of a road team as you are?
Just our preparation. We prepare the same as we do at home, but on the road it's just a different feeling. The crowd gets involved, so I think that hypes us up. The opponent's crowd hype us up just as much as our own crowd does. We just want to play good, play hard, just like we did tonight, and I think that's why we're undefeated on the road.
Tramon, the official UH Twitter account, they waited until today to post you guys celebrating that you clinched a regular season title. I know you guys had to share on Wednesday, but does that you guys had to wait until you were like the outright champions that you knew you guys are gonna be sharing that regular season champion?
Yeah, we had so it's just a great feeling to have, knowing what we got it by ourselves. We don't got to share with nobody like we did my first meet. We had to share with, I think, Wichita. But we got it. We did it. All the hard work we put in, it's a great feeling.
So kind of with 2 games left, now that you guys have kind of really that first checklist under your belt, so it's kind of the mentality going into these last 2 regular season games?
The same mentality we've been had. We want to win every single game. We don't want to lose one game at all. So just going forward, the same mentality we've been had, same preparation we did, preparing the same how we do, practice the same. Just doing everything the same, and we should be good going into the next part of our season.
Last question for me, but in terms of Marcus, obviously rolls his ankle, goes down, comes back a few minutes later. What did that do to you guys to be able to see that he was okay? And he was like right back on the floor, and it seemed like it was really bothering him after.
I was just happy he was good. Coming back he came back and got like 2 straight buckets, so I knew he was good. So yeah.
Tramon, I know you guys have the same mentality. We see it all the time. But can you sense that the finish line is in sight here? That you guys are playing soon for much higher stakes?
Oh yes, definitely. Everybody on the team knows that, from the players to the staff to the manager. So we're gonna definitely tune it up. But as of right now, we're gonna celebrate right now.
Good deal.
Yes, sir.
So once again, that was Houston Cougars guard Tramon Mark, touch on a lot of different things. To me, what stood out to me is the mentality. It's not going to change for them, and I don't really think even if they wanted to, it's hard when you're wired as an athlete like they are, and going back to the top, which it starts with Kelvin Sampson. They're not going to let go of the gas, and certainly not anytime soon. But really, it's the time when they need to start gearing up. But he touched on a lot of different things. What stood out to you guys?
They're going to try to win all the games they play. I mean, they have, I think, up to 11 games left in this season. 2 regular season, 3 in the conference tournament, and then 6 in the NCAA tournament. They're going to try to win all 11. And that includes that game to end the season in Memphis. It's going to be way more important to Memphis, but the rivalry, the Cougar culture, all those things, they're going to try to ruin Memphis' senior day in front of those fans. Trust and believe.
Yeah, I think what we saw from Tramon, we can really expect a lot next season. I think we'll see Houston play through him even more, and because he's really a complete scorer, he's really like a bucket getter, but he also really excels in playing in the pick and roll action because he can pass so well. And so with him already showing that he can be someone who can knock down the three and defend and rebound, I think it may be even to come in the tournament that he can put a good display run of games like he had today and help carry Houston to the promised land. But Tramon is really developing as such a complete player, just like all of Houston players normally do in their system. I was really happy to see him have the game that he had tonight.
And, it was mentioned during the broadcast, and I think Coach Sampson told the announcers, which, we've known this, but this team has probably 6 guys who could lead the team in scoring on any given night.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this team is balanced, and they're winning different ways, winning with offense, winning with defense. They're scoring in transition a little bit more. Sometimes they win with making free throws. I mean, they're winning with different ways. As long as they can stay healthy, they have a good chance to compete and win the national championship this year.
And if they do that, I know someone mentioned another school in Texas. Imagine if that school offers Kellen. That'd be something to think about. After we win the championship.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
you know what I'm saying? That'd be because typically when you win championships, they try to get those coaches off their staff, and he's already a good name and a proven coach. So that'd be something to think about. But
I would lean more toward Quantis White because he's older and he's been around longer as a coach, and he's very respected. You know Dayon, Andy, with what he's done for the guards.
But you think of Texas, they thinking names, and he has.
Oh no, but Texas, I don't believe the Longhorns would go with an unproven assistant coach. They really want a splashy guy.
Yeah,
but Quantis, he might be this summer's Jerome Tang. Assistant coach for a long time at a program. Let's see if if Quantis can be the one to give us the Chang magic, kind of
and have instant success like that. Yeah, for sure.
And who would be the biggest advocate for any of his assistant coaches and potentially being a head coach somewhere else, and it would be Kelvin Sampson again. It kind of all ties back into a week ago Wednesday Zoom availability, where he said his assistant coaches, he said, when they leave Houston, they're going to be ready to be head coaches at their own program because he delegates, he gives them all responsibilities, really something that he picked up during his time in the NBA. And he always goes back to when he first just was an advisor with the San Antonio Spurs, and he saw how Greg Popovich deferred to all his assistants. So if that were to happen, Kelvin will be the first to be the biggest advocate for them to be able to take a head coaching gig elsewhere, whether it is a school as big as Texas or somewhere else. But in regards to, and Chris, like you said, that's what stood out to me as well. Kind of the comment that King Jaja pointed out that I put on the screen, and again, kind of going back to the pettiness of it, but whether they put an emphasis on a conference tournament, Houston's going to the NCAA tournament regardless. But that last game at the FedEx Forum, it very well could be the final time that Houston plays Memphis a while. There's a good chance they meet in the conference tournament as well. But again, going back to the mentality of the team, it's not going to be something where they can just ease up. If anything, I would say the remaining 2 games, you might start to see more playing from the younger guys. Not too much. It would be like load management if you want to compare it to the NBA. But what do you think about potentially integrating, say, Terrence Arsenault, JV, or Francis more into being able to allow them to play through mistakes in the next final 2 games of the regular season?
No, I don't know. I think Houston is still keeping in sights with the seeding. I think they do want to be a number 1 overall seed, and they don't want to drop no games or nothing to risk being the highest seed that they can achieve. And so I don't think that's in this. And I think that still can disrupt the rhythm and the flow of the team. What kind of play? I mean, it depends on how the game goes. Game is a game to game, but I don't foresee that. Another thing I was thinking about is Coach Sampson. Although he demands so much effort on the defensive end, offensively, he gives his players so much freedom to really do what they do best. And if they have it going, then he'll feed them. So, and I think that's why so many kids have success in his system and scoring in the system, because he had a lot of scores, and they all have kind of really relished because he gives them so much freedom on the offensive end. I think that just bodes well into how great of a coach he is. And I think he's going to continue to get more and more talent because they're going to see how he's developing and how much freedom they really have as long as they lock in on the defensive end.
Yeah, that's Andy. I think Arsenault and Sharp could get more minutes if in Thursday's game if they do a good job on defense. Terrence had 2 fouls because he got out of position. And you saw Coach talk to Terrence on the sideline about his second foul. So if he does, if both of them do a better job defensively against Wichita State, they might get a few more minutes. But I don't see them playing 25 minutes Thursday against Wichita State.
No, for sure.
15 to 18 maybe for each of them. Win the game. It's senior night. Don't want to have a loss for your seniors, and then go to Memphis on Sunday and ruin their senior day. Because the goal is to still win. They still want to win all their games. Deion has a great point. The Cougs still want to win as much as possible to improve and enhance getting a number 1 seed.
And I think going forward, people are kind of speculating if we'll play Memphis again. And how Coach Sampson mentions how hard it is for them to get games. Memphis is going to be a team that's willing to play Houston. And so I could foresee that matchup continuing, especially in the non-conference.
I think it's possible for sure. Penny has much respect for Coach
It'll
Sampson.
Be a quiet 1 game.
So it could be, at minimum, it could be a matchup in Dickies Arena at neutral site in December. Could do that.
Yeah.
But as we start to reel things back here, as we kind of wind down again, the Houston Cougars, one thing we know for sure come March 10th in the American Athletic Conference tournament is that the Cougars will be playing on Friday in the noon slot, it could be interesting. I don't think we've had, at least for this season, not counting football, I don't think we've ever had Let's Rage Cougs for the basketball season around 2-3. So we're going to be shifting times for Let's Rage Cougs come the conference tournament, but we know that they're going to be the number 1 overall seed in that conference tournament, of course, after the Houston Cougars clinch the American Athletic Conference regular season title. But really, when you look at again, the point that you guys both brought up about not letting go of the gas in particular because of how important when it comes to the seeding aspects of it. And I know we mentioned how many teams lost, and there were a lot of upsets that happened across today of college basketball. But the one team that didn't lose, again, and I think this is a team that's kind of starting to get hot, and it's really kind of the team you're making a lot of noise when it comes to footsteps. When you look at it from a Houston perspective, it's got to be Kansas, who beat West Virginia today on Saturday.
Yeah, they did what they had to do to win. West Virginia, boy, you down by 2 points and don't even get a shot off. I mean, come on, Huggy. Really? Don't even get a chance to go off the rim and get a rebound or anything. This is not even get a shot off in the closing moments for West Virginia. The Jayhawks have not they played better on the road in conference play than they have at home. They've had more struggles at home this year in the Big 12. But I know some folks are going to say all the quad one wins got like 15 now, all that kind of stuff. Whatever. Purdue losing to Indiana helps. They've lost twice to Indiana now. Purdue's lost, 4 of their last 5, 4 of their last 6. Arizona losing helps. UCLA might be the team to jump Purdue. I think the Cougs, barring a loss March 10th in the first round of the conference tournament, is going to be a 1 seed. You know, with today's losses, they're pretty much locked into that. I think clearly they got to beat Wichita State because that's a home game. Beat them at Memphis won't be a bad loss in the eyes of committee, and win a first round game in the tournament. I think they'll be good to go for 1 seed in the NCAA tournament on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, and I was talking with someone about Kansas earlier, and I watched a number of their games. They just don't scare me, and just comparing them and matching them up with Houston. None of their guards I can see Houston having a problem with guarding them. None of them. I think Jalen Wilson is a really good player, and he probably be the biggest matchup problem. And so I would wonder who would guard him, but none of their guards from Harris to Dick to McCullum, transferred from Texas Tech. None of their guards scare me. None of them. And so they're a good team collectively. I think this is one of Bill Self's best coaching jobs that he had, because you think of the teams that he had, Kansas, he's normally had a dominant big man and an NBA guard or NBA forward. And on this team, maybe I think Grady Dick will be an NBA player, but he's still he's not someone who unguardable, because you just force him off the 3 and force him to do other things. He can be guarded. I've seen him on different occasions, and he's a liability on defense. Teams just attack him, and so I'm not scared of this Kansas team.
I'm not scared of them at all. I just think that they have a chance to be another 1 seed. Other than that, yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
DeJuan Harris, he is the star to their drink, because we've seen him have nothing in the first half and Kansas struggles. And he plays well in the second half, and Kansas is better. But I think down the stretch today, he had an injury and didn't finish the game. And without him, Kansas offense against West Virginia's pressure defense, they had problems. They had a lot of problems without him on the floor. So he's very important to them. Like all good teams with a good lead guard, you got to have your good lead guard to help the engine go. UCLA could be an issue, but not a concern. Mick Cronin and Coach Sampson have much respect. Mutual respect from a long time ago, but whatever. The Cougs have a chance to be a number 1 seed, and who would have thought that? Come way back when in October or September.
Well, certainly not in the schedule. If you would have heard people talking about how the non-conference schedule looked.
But yeah, I mean, Kansas, because they're in the Big 12, and because of the best conference in basketball. If they beat Texas to close out the regular season and then wins the Big 12 Conference Championship, there's a chance they could become the number 1 overall seed. Okay. So then they'll be the number 1 in Kansas City. Cougs be number 1 in probably Las Vegas or whatever. So what? They're still going to be in Birmingham for their first round matchups for the Cougs. But the fact we're talking about that as the Cougs as a number 1 seed with an outside shot, because Alabama, who knows how that's going to continue for the next few games for the Tide. The Cougs have a chance at being a number 1 overall seed.
Absurd.
I mean, it's absurd. The program has come so far in just 9 years. So it's just another salute to Coach Kelvin Sampson and the staff.
Absolutely, and that's pretty much going to do it for tonight's episode, #LRC After Dark. It's past midnight on the East Coast. It is getting close to 11:30 p.m. in the Central Time Zone. But once again, the final score from North Carolina, the Houston Cougars defeat East Carolina 76-57. Marcus Sasser led all scores with 22 points. He also had 5 rebounds. Tramon Mark was right there, right behind him with 20 points and 9 rebounds. And Jawan Roberts had 17 points and 12 rebounds. That is his 5th double-double of the season. Deon, I'll toss it over to you first. Where can people find you on social media, and any final takeaways of either Houston clinching the American Athletic Conference regular season championship, East Carolina, or anything else looking ahead for the Cougars schedule?
You can follow me on all social media, like it shows on the bottom of the screen, at Deon Dunlap. Proud of Houston clinching the outright conference championships, leaving out the American as champions, like they should have been. So congrats to this team. Like Tramon said, all the hard work they put in to earn that championship. I'm glad they did that outright. Now, it's kind of like everyone just itching for the tournament, as myself. And this team is playing well. I think as all three guards continue to thrive, this team is really going to go, because, Jarris can go off at any given moment. And Jaywan has been dominant. So this team can beat you in a plethora of ways, but it all starts on the defensive end. Offensively, they're lethal because they have so many different players who can beat you by scoring the basketball.
And tonight was a methodical win by Houston. They was a better team. They showed why they are the top team in the country. In spite of being, folks, in the American, they are still the top team in the country. Winning by 19 points, outscoring a team in the second half who shot 50+%, and they were still better than that team in the second half. So Tramon Mark is playing better on offense. Rebounding has been consistent for him lately. Marcus Sasser just rolled ankle, so that scare is lessened. He came back in the game and led the team in scoring. Juan Roberts, another solid game for him. This team is finding different ways to win ball games, and they're still getting better. Have a day or two off. Get ready for Wichita State on Thursday and senior night. I think that's a 6 p.m. start, so
Correct.
a little earlier for Let's Rage Coogs. Win that one and on to the next. Follow me on Twitter at VHRReview, website HoustonRoundballReview.com, Houston Roundball Review on Instagram, and of course on YouTube, as everybody's watching us on Let's Rage Coogs right now. Thank you again for your support and your comments, fans. We really do appreciate it.
No, Chris, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's what I was going to highlight, just in terms of, again, 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday night, the Central Time Zone. If you look at it from a East Coast perspective, it's already Sunday morning, and like you said, there's a lot of engagement in the YouTube comments on the Houston Roundball Review live stream, which, again, we can't say thank you enough. We also can't say thank you enough to our partners, beginning with the primary sponsor in the Saxenian Family. This is Let's Rage Coogs, presented by the Saxenian Family. Of course, we also like to thank Star Pizza and HOUNIL for being sponsors on today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. My name is Andy Yanez. You can follow me on Twitter at @Yanez_5. Of course, be sure to check out my work for GallerySports.com as I continue to cover the Houston Cougars heading into Sunday morning. And again, I can't stress it enough. Tomorrow, I guess here on the East Coast, it's still the 25th for you guys. It's the 26th here, the 27th on Monday, the 28th Tuesday, and then it's March. It's officially March, the best time of the year when it comes to college basketball. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Let's Rage Cougs. Deon, as always, you get the final word.
Go Cougs.